Is the Canadian government trying to micromanage the internet? Will they end up controlling what can be seen online?
Bill C-10 remains consistent with the Charter's guarantee of freedom of expression.
A hammer to intimidate freedom of expression.
Before the last election, Bill C-10 stirred up a fierce online free speech debate.
Experts revealed that the bill's true powers would be to censor and control what Canadians see, read, watch, and now even post online.
With that bill now gone, Trudeau is looking again to modernize the Broadcasting Act with Bill C-11, also known as the Online Streaming Act. The law will allow the Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission to regulate content on the internet like they do with traditional media. Similar to existing CanCon laws, the government wants large streaming services like Netflix and Spotify to contribute to Canadian content.
We took stock from the work done in the last Parliament. We listened especially to the concerns around social media, and we fixed it. When it comes to social media, we made it very clear in the Online Streaming Act that this does not apply to what individual Canadians and creators post online.
The Conservatives, once again, are concerned that this new bill is vague and could still end up harming content creators. They allege that the government regulator, the CRTC, will have too much power.
Scott Benzie, the Managing Director of Digital First Canada, shared this about Bill C-11. Quote, Bill C-11 still has many issues for digital first creators. The sandbox that is said to be given to the CRTC is too broad and could include every piece of content online. Most concerning, though, is that there is still room in the bill for the government to force platforms to put approved Canadian content ahead of independent Canadian content and artificially manipulate algorithms. Even in the best case scenario, this bill only has downsides for digital first creators, while traditional media industry gets their funding doubled.
However, the government is adamant that Canadians' free speech won't be affected.
So let me be extremely clear. No users, no online creators will be regulated. No digital first creators, no influencers, no cat videos. Only the companies themselves will have new responsibilities. So at the end of the day, this is about updating our system to reflect today's digital reality.
Critics still aren't convinced. Even the NDP's heritage critic Peter Julian has raised concerns about the bill. In a Global News article, Julian said he will go through the new bill line by line to see if it addresses the problems in the previous version. The Liberals were heavily criticized when exemptions for so-called digital-first creators were removed in committee for Bill C-10. Will that happen again? And how much power will the CRTC have with Bill C-11?
Now in Bill C-11, the government has reintroduced an exclusion on user-generated content on social media, and it is known as Section 4.1 of Bill C-11. But in what can only be considered as the ultimate in bureaucratic language, the Liberals added an exclusion to the exclusion as Section 4.2. This exclusion to the exclusion is so broad that the government, through the CRTC, could once again regulate wide swaths of content uploaded to social media.
The Heritage Minister has been quoted saying he'll be asking for a clarification from the CRTC about what constitutes Canadian content. Conservative MP Rachel Thomas has also sparred with the minister about the definition of program in the legislation, grid codes, and issues around discoverability.
So in Bill C-11, it regulates the uploading and the transmission of programs. That's the word used in the legislation. So if that's what it's doing, I'm wondering what is meant by programs.
Well, I think I know what you mean by making reference to all the discussion we had about the user-generated content and all the people, or those different programs that you're talking about, right?
So what I hear you saying then is that programs includes user-generated content.
No, they're not. That's what I'm saying.
That's what you just stated.
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. That's why
so then
I think you're referring back.
What is the program?
It's Canadian stories. It's the music. It's the filming that we're doing. It's the music that's been recording. Is that what we're saying? It's not TikTokers. It's not Instagram. I don't know how you call them. It's not the people that can have 1 million viewers. And it's great. I mean, and I met with them. They're amazing. Like, they're so creative, and some of them are 19, 20, 21, and they do incredible stuff, but it's not about them.
Okay, so Minister, do you know what a grid code is?
A what, sorry?
What? A grid code.
The codes that are on the commercial content.
So a grid code is something that it's a system to identify release of digital sound recordings, as well as other digital data for electronic distribution. And so every piece of digital content that has composition music actually has a grid code attached to it, which means that TikTok videos, as you've stated, podcasts, YouTube videos, etc., will all have a grid code attached to them because, as you know, those individuals who are posting those things usually attach music. I attach music, you often attach music, maybe even Hetty Fry attaches music to her things. So there's a grid code, which, Minister, you just said anything with a grid code will be regulated by this legislation because it'll be declared a program.
But it's not the only thing that specifies that. It's not for TikTok. TikTok are things that you take a minute and you take a piece of the song and you do your things using that piece of the song. So what we're talking about here is that musical content that is equal you find on YouTube and you find on Apple Music or whatever.
So, Minister, anyone who produces a TikTok video will have a grid code attached to their content. And so
but there's
what
other
you're telling me
criteria.
today,
Ms. Thomas, there's other criteria. It's only the code. It's one of the things that the CRTC will be looking at, but there's other stuff.
I'm glad you're mentioning that there's other criteria because based on my reading of the legislation, and not just mine, but experts such as Dr. Michael Geist, those criteria are very subjective and actually left up to the CRTC to determine to what extent those criteria are being considered. So, Minister, I'm wondering, since you're placing such emphasis on the criteria, if you would be willing to change the legislation to make it very clear so that the waters are no longer muddied and the CRTC knows exactly how it is to use. I hope those notes are helpful to you. The CRTC knows exactly how to apply those criteria.
Well, what we did was give a sandbox, right, to the CRTC, so you can see in the bill.
I've heard your sandbox speech.
Yeah, it's there. Right? It's a
but
good
I'm
example.
wondering.
But it is a good example. I'm sure you like it.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
The Department of Canadian Heritage says Bill C-11 will have an online undertaking category that will capture streaming services like Netflix, Crave, and Disney+. You can scroll through the actual bill and have a look. It will take a while. And it's chock full of jargon and legalese. I'm going to have to make another video explaining what grid codes are and how they can affect content creators. I'll also explore in more detail about what content could be prioritized with the proposed legislation. We'll look at the exemptions for digital creators and the exceptions to those exemptions. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Online Streaming Act. Do you think the government needs to promote Canadian content online? Should big streaming platforms contribute their fair share? Or could the unintended consequences of the law get in the way of content creators? Join the conversation, click and subscribe and share whatever you want to do. I'll keep an eye on this bill with more to come.